Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Alan K Show. And today we got a very special guest, one of our agents in the company, Stephen Levesque. And Stephen is going to share his strategies and his tactics on how in the last 100 days, this guy right here got 11 listings. And he's on pace to sell 30 homes in 2024, where in the last 4 years before that, he's only been averaging about, what, 9 to 12, 9, 14 or something like that?
The max was about 9.
And how many listings were you like averaging per year?
1 to 2.
1 to 2. So imagine this, going from 1 to 2 listings a year to 11 listings picked up in the last 100 days. So we're going to talk to Steve. All right, Steve, so if you don't mind, kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you've been up to, and how you're getting all these listings lately.
Yeah, so in 2019, I decided to get my real estate license. It was more along the lines of getting started in the investment space, right? I wanted to do fix and flips. I wanted to do buy and holds, but I was very unfamiliar with the entire process. So I had an aunt who was actually in the real estate market. She was an agent, definitely a top producer, back in her day. And she kind of talked me into getting my license. So from that point, I got my license and I didn't look back. And like you mentioned, I went every single year for about 4 to 5 years, and I just rode the real estate roller coaster, so to speak, right? Yeah. So I had, let's say, 1 or 2 deals in 1 month, and then 3 or 4 months, no deals, and then another deal or 2, and then maybe cap off the year with, 4 deals at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And so one of the main things that changed for me is I had a daughter, right? So it always comes back to your why, right? Why am I doing this? Why am I in this business, right? And so for me, being able to provide for my family was one of the most important things, right? So my daughter was born, and that kind of hit home for me, right? That was a reality check, so to speak. So I started the year 2024. I closed 4 homes. And right before that, like I kid you not, 6 months prior to that, I was looking for full-time jobs. Right.
No
I did a coding boot camp. Yeah. And it was a rough time. But for some reason, the business led to those 4 closings in the beginning of 2024. And so what I did was I switched my mentality. I know the term, right? The listing agent is the lasting agent. And so I decided to right there and then become a listing agent. Yeah. And not only that, but I built on that momentum that I had in the beginning of the year. Yeah. Right. So anyone who, let's say, is, riding that roller coaster, so to speak, once you gain that momentum and let's say you have 2 to 3 deals closed in a month, keep that momentum going, because that was a big thing for me. Right. I kept that momentum and I just kept my head down.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. You said the listing agent is the lasting agent, right?
Yes.
And there's another way of saying it. I think you list to last.
List to last,
right?
Yep.
But I think there's more to it than that if you really think about it. I mean, there's so many significant benefits of being a listing agent versus a buyer's agent, if you really think about it, right? By a huge mile, right? I mean, one or a few of them come to mind in my situation. Part of the last 11 years, I don't know, probably when I'm like 700 plus listing appointments, listed a couple of hundred homes, if maybe even more. Like for me, the biggest one is like the certainty. The fact that when I list a house, there's a good chance I'm going to get it sold, right? So that's important to me. The fact that if I have, let's say, 5 or 6 listings on a market, there's a good chance, let's say 4 of them will sell and I'm going to get paid. And if you look at MLS, like 97% of the listings sell, right? Which is a great number. The second thing for me with the listings is the fact that it's a lead gen opportunity, right? Think about it. When you put that sign outside, you're opening up that storefront essentially, right? So you're getting sign calls. You can hold open houses on those listings. You can leverage that listing on social media platforms. Email it to your database. There's so many ways of generating additional lead flow from just having one listing.
Right. Yep.
Right. The third thing comes to mind is the branding. Right. I remember the day. It's interesting, Stephen. I remember the day where at one point I had 4 listings on the same street right here in Arrowhead Ranch.
Yep, I heard about that.
Right. So the first listing was the result of marketing. the next 3 listings was because of the branding, right? Because they'll be seeing my signs, they're seeing my open houses, and all of them were like, come list me type of conversations.
Right. Yep.
Right. So, and then of course the leverage is another piece to it, right? I mean, you spend less time working with the sellers, working with the buyers, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to what you're saying, listing agent is the lasting agent. When did you make that shift, right? Or like, I know you and I had that conversation when before you joined our brokerage, right? You're like,
right.
Hey, you know what? I've been primarily a buyer's agent. And I want to make that shift to the listing side of the business. And it's not an easy shift to make. Like, it's a new set of skills that you have to be able to develop. So what made you to kind of realize and say, you know what? Yeah, I've been a buyer's agent for the most part in the first 4 years of my career. Now I want to become like primarily a listing agent.
Well, I mean, I think you kind of summarize it in a sense, right? So I have been so focused on buyers in a sense that I know that when I get a listing, the buyers will just come, right? If you build it, they will come essentially, right? So I think that from that perspective, that's what made me want to become a listing agent, is that just the natural business that I would get naturally, right, from getting a listing.
Yeah.
Right. And so the strategy that I approached was going after for sale by owners and going after expireds, right? So initially I went after for sale by owners, and, I was kind of dabbling in it a little bit before I kind of really got into it. But once I started really going after for sale by owners, it's kind of weird. I know a lot of agents don't like going after for sale by owners, but I think it like naturally came to me. So through that, I started helping a lot of for sale by owners sell their house, and through that, I've been getting more Google reviews, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I think not only making that mentality switch to becoming a listing agent, but also, doubling down on my Google reviews has helped me get more listings, right? Because when people research you, guess where they're most likely going to go? They're
going to Google you.
Yeah, they're going to Google you.
Yep.
So I, have 40 plus Google reviews now, and so I'm just building it as we go, and just the Google reviews themselves are generating me business as well.
Okay, so you're tracking that business. That it actually went on Google, saw your review, and reached out to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's unpack that, right? So I know you and I had a conversation, I think it was about 7 or 8 months ago, right? Mm-hmm. Like, look, Alan, I want to get into to list more houses, right? What do you suggest I should be doing? And we brainstormed, we talked about for sale by owners.
Right.
I think we also touched on, expireds, canceled.
Yep.
I think at one point we also talked about geofarming and farming and all of that. And I think you were doing some geofarming as well.
Yep.
But ultimately you said, you know what, I'm going to go all in on for sale by owners.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
How long did it take you to start seeing results? And what exactly are you doing when it comes to the for sale by owners? And I know there are a lot of agents out there that are probably thinking, man, you know what? I tried for sale by owner circuit before. Mm-hmm. It didn't really go anywhere. Most of them don't want to pay any commission.
Right.
Most of them are not serious. They're overpriced. Mm-hmm. Whatever the excuses are, there are a bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
So why it's working for you versus a typical agent out there that tries it for a week or two and it just doesn't go anywhere?
Yeah, well, I think you mentioned something pretty good in there, excuses, right? So, oftentimes agents, come up with an excuse to not do whatever activity that they know that they need to do, right? And so when I switched my mentality to focus on for sale by owners, I just decided to literally keep the straight and narrow to focus on for sale by owners. And so what I did initially to kind of get into it, and just to backtrack, you said how long did it take me to actually close my first deal with a for sale by owner? It was about a month, right? A month, yep. And so how I got into it was just texting, honestly. So
you were not even calling?
No.
No, you were just texting them.
Yeah, just texting them. Huh. And so what I did was I utilized the CRM that was provided by Best Homes, KV Core in this case. So I signed up for a company called My Plus Leads, right? And My Plus Leads essentially syncs with the database KV Core, right? Yep. And then the lead imports into the database. It gets assigned a hashtag. And what I did with KV Core was like, okay, if I get this hashtag, you're going to start this text campaign to this lead, right? And so a good method that's been working has been I go by the term MOFR, right? So that's make offer for immediate response. Right. We're inundated by that every day when you think about it. If you go into a store, there's, hey, such and such is 20% off or such and such is, that kind of deal. So that's how I gauge the activity, right? Or I get the activity, I would say. And then I just kind of put my Google reviews in there, right? So I put my Google reviews along with the MOFR, so to speak, right? And so through that, I've been getting people just either calling me back or texting me back, right? Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I get a lot of no's. Yeah. But I've found for pretty much when it comes to texting leads, for roughly every 300 leads, I get 1 or 2 yeses.
Okay, so for every 300, let's say leads/contacts, right? These are the people that end up in KV Core database that the system is texting. You're not even texting.
No.
Like you're not sending text or anything like that.
No.
KV Core is just going out there and just sending a bunch of these texts, right?
Right.
So out of those 300, you get about 2 or 3 that raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm interested.
Yes.
Learning more about it.
Pretty much. Yep.
Okay, got it. And what is in that text, that initial text that you're sending out? You said MOFR? Is that the acronym for it?
Yeah, MOFR. Make offer for immediate response.
Okay, and give us an idea, like, what would it say, a text?
It would be something like, hey, name, this is Steven. I specialize in helping for sale by owners sell their house. Yep. Hey, just so you know, I'm giving an exclusive for sale by owner offer of X%. And if you sell your home on your own, it's free. I give 110% to all of my clients. Here are my Google reviews. Something like that.
Just like that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. Yep. Got it. Yeah. All right. So again, you're not cold calling them, right?
No, I am cold calling. Like I'm doing 10. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm definitely texting a lot for sure. But before through KV Core. Yeah. And then in tandem, I'm calling people too. So got it. It's just a matter of how much do you want to scale that business, right? Yeah. And so what I've found that is for every 300 leads, you get text backs, that kind of deal. Yeah. That ratio shrinks to about 100, right? When I'm calling. Yeah. So it helps doing both because you can scale it up.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So how many of these listing leads or opportunities do you get on a weekly basis?
So when it comes to for sale by owners, I only get a couple per day.
Couple per day?
Yeah. So maybe 12 a week.
12 a week.
12 to 15 a week. Okay. Yeah. And so what I'm doing is I'm expanding into expireds as well because there's more expireds and canceleds and all that good stuff. So I've found that on a daily basis in Arizona specifically, you're looking at anywhere from 20 to 30 canceled and anywhere from 8 to 10 expireds, right? So it's kind of it's increasing that number, right? And so I'm kind of in the midst of figuring out the whole expireds realm, and I've had some success here and there with that. But yeah, for right now, for sale by owners are my bread and butter. So
okay, so for sale by owners, let's say 10 to 12 a week, right? Now these are opportunities. Right. These are not listing appointments, right? Right. Because out of those 10 to 12, you probably schedule how many to actually go and see?
I'd say about a fourth of those.
Okay, so give or take about 2 to 3 a week on average.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So out of those 2 and 3, you list one.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So it's almost kind of like a 10% conversion rate. From the opportunities, the ones that raised their hand said, hey, I would like to learn more about you and what you're offering, right? to the actual listing, it's a 10% conversion rate.
Roughly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So you do this every single week. You get about 3 to 4 listings a month from for sale by owners, right?
Yes.
Somewhere there. And now you are expanding into expireds and cancels. Are you using the same type of methods when it comes to expireds and cancels? Are you texting them?
Yep, texting and calling in tandem with each other.
Okay.
I'm actually looking into some new systems for it. I'm still utilizing the KV Core system, but I'm trying to expand into a different CRM because I'm looking at, what is it? Land Voice.
Okay.
So Land Voice, I've heard, is a better conversion rate because they give you better data, right?
Gotcha.
So I've been using a couple different systems, right? So I've been using Vulcan, right? Vulcan 7 is a good expired cancel. It's for sale by owners for leads. The only issue I've had with that is I have to actually manually upload every single lead into the Vulcan system every single day, right? So let's say if that low hanging fruit that starts at 8 a.m. that you want to start calling, I have to get, to my computer at like 7:30 a.m. to take the next 30 minutes to upload the leads. So with Land Voice, I've found that maybe the data is a little more accurate and they actually sync with the MLS. So,
Gotcha.
So yeah. So, but yeah, as far as the system is concerned, I'm still utilizing the same system with expireds that I am with for sale by owners.
Got it. And with expireds, obviously, and in my life, I probably called thousands and thousands of expireds. I still got the scars from all the all the no's. But I also got a bunch of yeses and listed a bunch of homes as well, right? So
exactly.
So you got to go through a lot of no's to get to yeses. So are you calling expireds and cancels right now? You're doing that as well?
I am. Yep.
Okay. All right. And I guess the biggest knock with expireds and cancels is the fact that most of them don't answer their phone.
Yes.
So how do you get through? How do you connect?
So I use a program called Forewarn.
Okay.
So Forewarn skip traces the number, right? You can literally input someone's number and it'll tell you exactly who owns the number, which, kind of as a realtor, I like to describe it as you're a professional stalker, right? Not to the point where like, hey, I'm going to continue to go to your house and list with me. But in a sense, you're trying to find the correct data to call that individual, right? And so what I do to get in contact with expireds and canceleds is I use a folder system. And I actually got this through Vulcan, through the program called Take 52. So you have essentially a call 1 all the way through call 10 folder system, right? And so you know exactly how many times you're calling that lead, right? And anytime a lead picks up and you talk to them, you essentially put them in your hot folder, right? Like, I've had a conversation with this individual. I'm going to put them in my hot folder, right? And so then right, this is the person I need to continuously follow up with, right? Because building that rapport on the phone is like, it's speed to relationship, right? Not speed to lead, but speed to relationship. And that is how essentially you get through to people, right? It's not about, hey, I'm going to try and sell this individual, but I'm going to try and get them to trust me, right? Because, I have a reputation, right? And that's definitely expressed through my Google reviews.
Got it. So you have a folder system. So let's say you make one call, they don't answer, you put them on a second call folder.
Call 2,
And you have how many folders?
10.
10 folders.
Call 10.
And if, let's say, they do have a conversation with you, you move them to the hot folder.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So, that's how it works. All right, cool. Here, real quick, if you're a licensed real estate agent in the state of Arizona, I want to talk to you about my brokerage, Best Homes Real Estate. Best Homes Real Estate is looking to partner with agents that are looking for better support, better tools, better resources in growing their business. If that sounds like you at all, here's what I would like you to do. All right, click on the link below, book a call with me, and I'll share with you exactly what does it look like to work with us and partner with us. Talk to you soon. Now back to the show. It's interesting, when I have conversations with agents, right, and I talk about for sale by owners, I talk about expireds or cancels, talk about cold outreach, cold calling, whatever you call that, right? A lot of times the the response I get or the feedback I get is like, hey, I tried it, or I'm not going to try it because I don't want to be rejected.
Right.
There's that mental block I think most of us have, like the fear of rejection, and then also the fear of, like, for some reason, like the confrontation, right? Like they'll yell at me, or they cuss at me, or they hang up the phone on me, or they report me, right? So because of that alone, I feel like there are a lot of agents, they're just not doing it, or they're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
How were you able to, like, overcome this? Because I remember, like, it was tough for me as well. Like, growing up as a real estate agent, dude, there were days when I didn't want to make calls. I was just I was just getting, like, rejected. I was getting pummeled, right? There are just days that just nothing goes right. Everything just goes wrong. So how do you overcome those type of obstacles, mental blocks, if you will, or the days when, things are just not clicking, but you still have to do it?
Yeah, so I think call reluctance is a pretty common thing for anyone, right? And I recognize that. I would say falling back on your why is a huge thing, right? Why are you doing this business? And having that foresight in mind of, like, where do I want my business to go is definitely a huge thing. Sometimes, I just make it as simple as, the Nike model, just do it, right? And essentially that's as tough as it sounds, that's also as easy as it is. Like, you literally just do it. Right? Just get into it. And 9 times out of 10, when I've kind of broken that ice and I just start doing it, it's weird. Your mentality just switches. It switches in the moment, right? Because you're like, okay, I got to be on my game. I got to, and I would say working in a call center for a year helped me. So I'm not, suggesting by any means go work in a call center, but if that's like, if you have a fear of the phone, just a little backtracking. I used to be a life insurance agent. I sold $6,000 in commission for an entire year as a life insurance agent, simply because I had a fear of the phone. So
hold on a second. So you made $6,000 in commissions selling life insurance for the entire year.
For an entire year, and
that was full time or part time?
That was full time. Yeah, right. So, and that was all because I had a fear of the phone. When I came to picking up the phone and calling someone, I was terrified. Like, I was a tree shaking with the leaves falling off. Right. So so I recognized that as something, not a brick wall, right, that I couldn't get past, but rather a stop sign that I could reevaluate, right, and move forward from there. And so because of that, I actually worked in a call center making about 300 to 400 calls a day and getting those no's all day, every day. It was horrible. Don't get me wrong. I was making $40,000 a year. That sucked. But I was appreciative in the skills that I learned there, because I knew that I wanted to do some type of sales. Yeah. And I just didn't know it was going to be real estate. Right. Yeah. And so now, fast forward, I don't know, 7 years later. Yeah. Like, when it comes to the phone, I'm like, okay, well, I can literally just put a script in front of me. Let's say I read through the script once or twice, and then I can just call a lead. And if I need to go off script, that's fine. But I always, because when it comes to scripts, you have to make it your own. You got to make it sound natural. Like you've done this before. Right. Yeah. And so just having that experience has helped me essentially get to the point of getting past call reluctancy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in order for you to make that script your own, you just have to do it. Yep. And you have to do it, like, consistently. Yep. And, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. I think that there are a lot of, like, sales books out there, a lot of script books out there, right? Mm-hmm. All of them are fine and great, but I think, like, in order for you to get better, you just have to do more of it.
Exactly.
That's I think that's the magic trick, whatever you call that, right? Yep. But so you mentioned a few times, like, your why, right? So you had a baby girl that was born 11 months ago.
She's 14 months.
14
now.
months. Yep. Yeah, 14 months. and she's your biggest why right now.
Yeah, her and my wife.
And your wife. So you said that in the beginning of the year that you closed up 4 transactions, but before that, you were seriously considering getting a full-time job.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was it like during that period of time when we were like, and I know last year was a tough year for a lot of us, right? A lot of agents that, man, I know agents that did like 20, 25 transactions in 2022 and barely did like 6 or 7 transactions in 2023.
Right.
Like it was a really rough year last year. So what was going through your mind during that period of time where you're like seriously considering, getting a full-time job? Because I'm assuming you're the breadwinner right now. You're the only breadwinner right now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my wife works 1 day a week right now as a nurse, and that's pretty much it. So
that's pretty much it, right? Yeah. So that's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Right. So what was going through your mind during that period of time?
I would say I was willing to do whatever it took, right, to provide for the family, right? And so in the midst of, trying to sell houses, I was like, you know what? It wouldn't hurt to have that consistent income right now. I just can't sustain the family if it's $40,000 a year, which is, I did my degree in music education, so that would be my starting salary if I became a teacher. So yeah, and so that's when I was like, I'll just try coding. I am in the Army National Guard, and so I went through this program called Vet Tech, and they essentially paid for this coding boot camp. And I was like, all right, yeah, sure. So I did that for 6 months. I would say it was nice because it helped preoccupy my mind while I was trying to sell houses, right? So it essentially, I think we get caught up in, I'm not selling any houses, I'm down in the dumps. I'm just gonna,
look at other options.
Just not be productive in the business, right? Yep. And so while I was working on this coding boot camp, slowly but surely I started closing some more houses. So I think that because I had never been a major producing agent before that, the fact that I was able to sell like 6 or 7 homes last year was like, oh, this is great. Yeah. Right. So I didn't have the previous production to be like, this is horrible. Right.
It's horrible, but like, you know how it is, right? So if we're making $200,000, most likely our expenses are going to be closer to $200,000. Right. And then when you're now making only $100,000, right, and your expense is still at $200,000, that's when it becomes like a pressure cooker. Right. Right. Yeah. Like in your situation, I don't think that was ever the case, right? I don't think you were living beyond your means. Right. Right. But still, like 6 houses, you're like, okay, that's interesting. You know what? Like I can sell 6 houses pretty much, and you were not doing it full time. You were doing it part time. Right. Exactly. What if I do it full time? Exactly. So, when I graduated my coding boot camp and everything, and I started looking for jobs, and I was applying for 50 jobs a day, trying to find something. It finally, after like a month of that, it dawned on me. I was like, I have a better chance of selling a home than I do getting a coding job. Did you get any crack at the interviews or anything like that? Did you meet with any of the Not even that. Not one. So you went through 6 months of schooling, got your coding degree, started submitting a bunch of resumes, and not even one job interview? I mean, there might have been like one potential, but it wasn't even like worth my time, right? Yeah. So I just came to the realization of like, I can just, it's better for me to just sell homes at this point because I have no other choice. Yeah. Right. So I think once I came to that realization, I'm like, I got to sell homes. I got to sell homes to support the family, and I can't look back. So I essentially just decided to put my head down. I went for it. I built off the momentum of the beginning of the next year. And from that point forward, it's been great. So okay, so let's talk about that. You said, you know what? Forget about finding another way of making money, side hustles, whatever it is. Let me go all in when it comes to real estate. Right. Right. And I think that's important. All in. Yep. Like, I think intentionality plus focus plus consistency
Yep.
creates a lot of momentum, right?
Yep.
So how were you able to then generate those opportunities? Was it just kind of like saying, you know what, no more distractions, like this is all I'm going to be doing?
Yeah.
And what was the source of those opportunities, those leads? Is it primarily Sphere,
So
past clients?
it was a little bit of a combination of Sphere and open houses.
Open
Right.
houses.
Yeah, because open houses was like, okay, this is honestly the only thing that I know how to do right now, right? Is just to generate new business. It's
Yep.
just open houses.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, let's just go back to the basics. I'm going to start doing open houses. I live, 10 minutes from Sun City, which is a 55 plus community. I'm like, old people like, looking at houses, in the middle of the week. So I'm like, I'm just going to do open houses from like Wednesday.
10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, from like Wednesday to Friday, and then on the weekend I'll do open houses in the other communities and stuff. So I started doing that, and after about 2 months of that, I started generating some clients through that, and then I actually. So, I told you I was in the Army National Guard.
Yeah.
And I was like, it kind of popped into my mind. I'm like, why don't I turn this into a niche, right? Or niche, however you want to pronounce it. But why don't I turn this into a niche and, focus on this? And so, and I kid you not, like a week later, a loan officer from California, he happened to go on Google, right, and searched veteran real estate agent in Arizona. And I was one of the first people that popped up because of one of my, affiliated business relationships with a company called Veteran PCS. And so they refer business to me, which is nice. But through that, he was like, hey, I found your information. Are you interested in doing veteran seminars? And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. He was like, yeah, no catch. Let's just, find a Buffalo Wild Wings and do a veteran seminar the last Tuesday of the month. I was like, okay, let's do it. So, from that point forward, then I was like, okay, here's a niche that I can get into and something that we can maybe do consistently, right? So, just from that alone, we've done probably one seminar every other month, and we've generated probably 4 or 5 closings from it, right? So that has been pretty nice. And then, at that point, now we're getting into 2024. I'm like, okay, so now I'm finding a rhythm.
Yeah.
I'm doing veteran seminars, open houses here and there.
Yep.
Starting to dabble in for sale by owners and expireds, making the calls, doing the texts. And from there, it's just been, a snowball rolling down the hill, right?
Yeah.
Just gaining momentum and a lot more momentum. Essentially, real estate is complicated, but it's simple, right? Most people do not treat real estate as if it was a 9-to-5 job, as if they were being paid hourly.
Yeah.
And you look at like Redfin or any of the other companies, right? They have agents in their brokerage, and I'm pretty sure they pay them a salary, right? So, but I know there's statistics out there that they do more work.
Correct.
Right? Because they know that if they don't do the work, they're going to get fired. Right.
Yep. And they sell more they sell more homes because of that.
Right.
It's like you said, like for 1 year you worked in a call center from morning to evening, making 300, 400 calls for $40,000 a year.
Yep.
Like imagine if you applied the same type of work ethic, right, in reaching out to for sale by owners, expireds and cancels, your past clients, your Sphere. Let's say it's not 8 hours a day. Let's say it's only 4 hours a day.
Right.
But those 4 hours, you're intentional, you're focused, there are no any distractions, you know your scripts, you know your dialogues, and you just hammering that phone, calling, texting, whatever that is.
Exactly.
Dude, you're going to make $400,000.
Yeah. And it's true. Like even if it's 2 hours, honestly, if you just do it, the business will come.
Yeah.
Right. And there's essentially virtually no other business like real estate. Right. And how much you can possibly get paid. Right. For the amount of work that you're doing. Right. And so just the simple fact of making the calls.
Yeah.
Like, I make less calls than I did in the call center, and I made $40,000 in 1 month rather than an entire year. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so just treating it like that, like, hey, I know I'm not getting paid on an hourly basis, but I'm definitely getting paid on the weekly or monthly basis.
Yeah.
Right? And so just having that foresight in mind, like, this is a faith-based business. Like, we got to have the faith that the effort and the work that you're doing is going to yield results.
Yeah.
And guess what? 9 times out of 10, it does. You don't have to be perfect by any means, right? But the more you do it, the better you get.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, if you're a broker owner or a team owner and looking to grow and scale your business by bringing in more agents, i.e. recruiting more agents to your organization, I got to tell you about Modern Day Brokerage. Modern Day Brokerage is something that I started about 2 years ago with my partner, Tristan Horn, and we're currently working with 120 clients. These are broker owners. Some of them are team owners as well, where on average with our services, they hire 4 to 5 agents every single month. So if you, again, a business owner, a broker owner, or a team owner that is serious about growing your business by predictable agent attraction and recruiting methods, you can book a call with us by clicking on the link below for a free private business consultation meeting with me or one of my team members. Talk to you then. Back to the show. Yeah, I mean, look, you know my story, I think, right? Like, the first 6 months in my real estate business, I did 0 transactions. Like, 0 listings, no buyers, no sellers. But here's what I did. Like, I pounded the phones pretty much on a daily basis. And there were many days when things were just not going my way. There were many days when I was not feeling like doing it, but I still did it. My biggest whys were same as yours. In my situation, I had 3 kids at that time, and they're all like under age of 5. And I had expenses of about $5,000, just not even including like food and everything else, right? So, like, when agents ask me, is like, you know, like, what was your business plan in your first year? My business plan in my first year was like, I got to make 60 grand so I can cover those expenses. That was my business plan, right?
Right.
But I showed up, and that's the key thing to remember is like, you gotta show up, you know, and then you have to be intentional, and then you have to treat it like a career. Like, you have to treat it like it's a 9 to 5 type of a job.
Yep.
Right. And I think with real estate, it's an amazing industry to be in, but there's a blessing of that, and there's also a curse. And a curse is the fact that there are no specific hours during the day.
Nope.
Right? There's little or no structure during the day. There's no boss or like a supervisor, you know, overlooking and making sure that you're doing the job, you're clocking in and clocking out, right? And because of that, a lot of times we take this for granted and we just goof off. We do other things. The things that are not really moving the needle forward for us as real estate professionals. And it's very difficult to see and experience because you see agents with lots of potential, with lots of opportunity.
Yep.
Just don't do anything with it because they just don't want to put in that work, you know. And yes, it's tough work. It's hard work, you know, making calls, holding open houses, especially during the summer months. You know, we're in Phoenix, and it's like 115 degrees every day for like 3 months in a row. Still over 100 degrees, and it's September 13th.
Yep.
Right? But you did it, right? You're like, man, going back to the open house thing is like, if let's say you right now move me to like a middle of nowhere. I mean, there's still houses there, right?
Right.
And it's like, hey, in the next 30 days, find a property, you know, that you can put in escrow. I would be doing open houses pretty much on a daily basis.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to get like people in that open house every day. It doesn't mean I'm going to get leads every single day. But if I can just get one opportunity, one lead a week, and I convert that lead into a client, I'm golden.
Yep.
That's exactly what you did initially. It's like, hey, I did open houses, then I did VA seminars, then for sale by owners, and then just continuing to build on top of that.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it also just comes down to like how do you start your week, right? So think of it like this. Mondays suck, right? Don't actually think that, but start your Monday with, how can I get a listing by Friday?
That's it.
Right. And then focus on that one thing.
That's it.
Right. And then everything else kind of falls from there. Right. So how can I get a listing by Friday? All right, sweet. You might or might not get a listing, but as long as you put in the work and you do what you need to do, it'll happen. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's interesting. I had a conversation with a couple of my coaching clients yesterday, and they were asking me, what would the ideal day or ideal week look like as far as time blocking. Mm-hmm. And I said, do you want me to give you like a fluffy answer or like a real answer? And they're like, oh no, real for sure. I was like, well, if that one thing is your one thing and it's your number one priority, you will find the time during the week to do it.
Right.
So if you want to recruit more agents, if that's your big why and that's the one thing or your number one priority or the number one constraint right now that you're experiencing in your business, you will find the time during the day to recruit agents.
Right.
Period.
Yep.
Right? So you can time block all you want, but if it's like priority number 3, 4, 5, or 6, most likely it will never going to get done, or it's going to be moved constantly from time block to time block or whatever it is.
Right.
Right. So in your situation, you made it very simple. Hey, my target by the end of the week, I want to get one listing.
Yeah.
And I got to do whatever needs to be done on a daily basis to get me that listing opportunity.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sounds simple.
Yeah, but it's also complex.
Complex, right? Because things happen during the day.
Exactly.
Things get in the way, right? Obviously, especially on top of that, when you're working with existing clients. Mm-hmm. And you had a great opportunity to work with a very complicated, very unique client not so long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to share that experience?
Sure, yeah.
Not in detail, but...
Yeah, I'll just give you the little synopsis, I guess. But I did take a listing, and I was their 13th agent in a span of 2 years.
So 13th agent in the last 2 years, and those 13 agents did not sell the house.
They did not. No. And luckily I did. I mean, they fought me tooth and nail every single step of the way. But
was it a for sale by owner or is it expired?
For sale by owner.
For sale by
owner. That I got through texting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, people are receptive to texting. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I mean, you get a call, you can easily kind of just ignore it and move on with your day. But you got a text right there. You're like, you have sometimes no choice but to read it. I know there's. Don't look at my text history because there's like probably in the little like chat bubble there's probably 150 or something or more. But that's because I put all the non-important stuff out of the way. But yeah, I mean, texting works. I know there's a lot of agents, they're like, no, don't text, but it works, and there's a lot of agents that say, don't cut commission or, and I mean, if it gets you a listing, right? Sometimes those people can be the best people for your business long term, right? So, I can't speak for your business specifically, right? At the end of the day, you can do whatever amount of work for whatever amount of money that you want to get paid. Yeah. But if I get a sign in front of the house, that's advertising, kind of like what you said earlier, right? Yeah. That's advertising. That's an open house opportunity. That's a Google review opportunity that, if I do sell their house, I'm going to be like, hey, can you give me a 5-star review? Right. Yeah. And that's just all potential future business. I did a listing recently out in Goodyear, Arizona, and Goodyear is like 30 minutes from my house, not too far, but it was a mobile home. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do a mobile home, but it's listed at 260, so it's not too bad. But I'm like, you know what? And this guy's an appraiser. So guess who he's talking to all the time? Sellers. Yeah. And so I decided to take this listing, and then he referred me 2 more clients. And I'm going to get an $800 listing in North Phoenix.
800,000.
800,000.
Yeah.
Just because I decided, hey, I'm going to give you a deal here.
Yeah.
Right. And so he was very appreciative of that, and he referred me business.
Yeah.
Right. And so, there's a lot of agents that's like, my commission. Don't focus on the dollar amount. Focus on the customer service, not the dollar amount.
Dude, I remember I did a workshop a few years ago in our office, and I think it was on listings, right? And there was one agent from the other brokerage, and she's been an agent like 20 something years, whatever. And and that's exactly what I was talking about. I was like, hey, there are going to be some listings that you're just not going to get the full commission. It's just not going to happen. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter what you're offering, no matter how you look, you're just not going to get that full commission, right? And I told her how much, sold to an entire class, how much I got for that particular listing, which was like 1.5% on the listing side, right?
Yep.
And she freaking blew a gasket. It's like, how can you do this? You are devaluing our services, blah, 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 this and that. And I looked at her. I said, look, I respect what you're saying, but I also respectfully disagree with what you're saying. And I gave her the reasons why. I listed that house. I knew that house was going to sell. That for sale by owner could easily. So by the way, that for sale by owner had 2 other offers already on the table. Their offers like below what he wanted for. And I knew that I can get him more money, but he already had offers on the table. So he probably, without me, he probably could sell it himself. Right. But I got that listing. I sold that listing. But during that period of time when it was for sale, I leveraged that listing with open houses. I picked up 2 additional listings in that neighborhood for full commission. These were not like $400 listings. These were like $900,000+ listings.
Right.
So you do the math.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And, there's, once you build that business, then all of a sudden you probably got the referrals coming in.
Yeah.
And then guess what? From referrals, you can probably get the full commission amount, right? And so, that's a huge thing. Yeah, I would say if you want to become focused on listings, just focus on listings. Right? That's it.
Yeah.
Right. And then, down the road, once you've built it out, you're probably going to get the full commission. Right. So I've been to some other, coaching events and all that stuff. I don't know if you've heard of Glover U. Jeff Glover, he's one of the top listing agents in Michigan.
Big fan.
Their big thing is like, we get the full commission, if not more. I'm like, yeah, that's because you've literally built out this entire organization. You have all these inside sales agents. Like,
well, he built a huge brand, right?
Exactly. Like brand is
yeah,
everything.
I mean, it's everything. Like, for example, let's say you have 400 Google reviews, right? Like, you can go in and say, look, I got 400 clients of mine that gave me like 4.5, 5 stars. Like, and my commission is like whatever, 3%, 4%. There's a good chance they're going to pay you that money. Why? Because you have a credibility.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to build a brand. I mean, marketing is important, very important to get the now business. Right. But ultimately, you want to build a brand that will educate your audience, nurture your audience, and eventually convert those audience. That's very important. But at the end of the day, like, I had listings that I took out 4% commission on the listing side, 5% commission. But I also had listings that I did like 1%, 1.5% strategically, because I know that client's going to refer me to 2 more people or use me again in the future.
Exactly. Yep.
That's it. And again, the benefit of being a listing agent versus a buyer's agent per se is huge, but the most important one is the time. Like, on average, I used to spend less than 10 hours from start to finish working with the seller.
Right.
Especially if you have the systems dialed in, you got this listing coordinator, you have a transaction coordinator or an admin, you're spending less than 10 hours. Versus if I'm working with the buyers, for the most part, I'm spending 40 to 50 hours with them, driving around town and showing them properties. So your number one asset is the time and the energy. So now you can have 5 listings here and spending the same amount of time, where a buyer, just one buyer, and you're spending 50 hours. Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? So that's why I think... And I know we have a listing mastery, and probably by the time this is going to come out, we already done this listing mastery. We have it on September 17th. But like, I'm just surprised more and more agents are not taking advantage of the listings.
Right.
And I think there are a couple of reasons for it. I think one of them is lack of competence. They don't know how. They don't have the skill. And because they don't have the skill, they lack the confidence piece of it. So it's competence and the confidence piece of it.
Yep.
But you get confidence by doing it.
Right. Exactly.
By making that mental shift that, you know what, this is what I'm going to be focusing on for the next 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
Right? And most likely you're going to start seeing the results like you did.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be skilled. Like, all you got to do is have a drive and just do it. Right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
I wasn't skilled.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't skilled, but I had a drive.
Yeah.
And had to go and just do it. And many times I bombed. Like, I remember my first year, probably went on like 50, 60, maybe more listing appointments. I only listed like about, I don't remember, like 15, 16 homes. Like, most of the other ones, I just did not do such a good job at all.
Yeah. I mean, every listing opportunity is something to learn from, right? No matter what, if you get it or you don't get it, right? I was just talking with you yesterday of how I went on a listing appointment. I'm like, I don't think I went about this in the right, light, I guess. And so, we talked about it, and it was something that I was like, I could have probably done this rather than this, right? So, but it was a learning opportunity, and you learn from every opportunity, essentially, right? And so, and that's how you get better. You just you have opportunities to learn from.
Absolutely. And it's not the end of the world if you don't get a listing. All right. As long as you have another one in a pipeline, another 2, another 3, you'll be fine.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, for example, when I talk to the agents that are flip out when their listing doesn't sell. Like, I had situations when I used to have, like, I don't know, personally 18 to 20 listings at any given time. And there are times when, like, half of them would be just sitting there, not doing anything.
Yep.
Like, I knew that going in, that not all of them are going to sell for whatever reason. But again, for me, it's the lead gen tool that I generate buyer calls, I generate seller calls. I have my agents that are holding open houses. They're generating more business. They're generating more opportunities. Like, every listing should be like your storefront.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. And open houses used to be a big thing for me. I was like, I used to be at HomeSmart. HomeSmart is one of the biggest brokerages in Arizona, right? And one of my reservations, right, and going to, let's say, a smaller brokerage, I'm like, there's not going to be as many open house opportunities, right? But I was like, no, that's my own limiting belief, right? That's my own limiting belief. I'm like, what I'm going to do is generate the listings so then I can have my own open house opportunities, right? And so that was another mindset switch for me, right? And so, from there, it's just been just more listings. So.
Awesome, dude. Yeah. So what's next for you? You're on pace to sell 30 homes.
Yep.
Like, let's say you and I were having this conversation 5 years from now. I guess that's considered to be a long-term goal, even though in your situation you're so young, you're just starting this whole thing.
Right.
But 5 years from now, where do you see yourself doing? Do you still want to do real estate? Do you want to branch out into some other industries, other opportunities? What does it look like for you, Steve?
Yeah, I'd say all the above. Okay. I think for me, I want to build something, right? And something that's going to last, essentially, right? So I'm going to, focus on one aspect of the business at a time. This year I'm on pace to do 30. Next year, I could potentially want to double that, right? And eventually I want to get to the point where I'm selling 100 homes a year, right? And so, my goal is to have a small team. Okay. I don't want like a giant team, because then you gotta focus all your time into, training a lot of agents that might not produce, right? And so I want to have a small focused team, a couple buyer agents. I want to have a listing agent. I want to have an admin, right? And I kind of want it to work as essentially a machine, right? That's just going to keep working, right? Some inside sales agents, all that good stuff. So I would say that's my long-term goal. for the next 5 years for sure. And then from that point on, I'd say like, okay, well, we got another business venture to work on. Let's do it. Whether it's a property management company or, if you and I want to go in on something, maybe a flip business or
why not?
So, but yeah,
absolutely. What would you say right now, in your business, like the next piece to the puzzle, like, the next opportunity?
Hiring an admin. Yep.
Okay.
For sure. I mean, you and I have talked about that multiple times, but also I'm listening to a lot of podcasts right now.
Yeah.
Especially like, the Millionaire Real Estate podcast.
Yeah.
They, every single podcast that has some type of team or, some type of major producing agent has an admin. And they always say every single time, hiring the admin, like it's scary at first. Like, I'm not gonna lie, for me,
it was scary for me. I tell you that it took me like 5 months to decide. To hire the first one, and then I hired the first one. She was the wrong fit. The second one was the wrong fit. The third one helped me to double my production.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of the idea is like, I'm probably going to take some classes on how to hire the right person, because I know hiring the right person is a
or you can just talk to us, me and Melissa.
Yeah.
And we can help you with that.
Yeah, we can do that too.
I think we have a little bit of experience hiring an admin.
It's nice having a brokerage to support you for sure. So, but yeah, I'd say that's definitely my next step. So
right on. Awesome, man. Well, if let's say there's an agent there listening to this and, hopefully took a lot of golden nuggets out of this conversation, feeling inspired. How would they get in touch with you? Like where they can find you? I'm assuming on all the socials.
Yeah, social
Facebook.
media. My Instagram is Steven with a PH, AZ Real Estate. So that's my Instagram name.
Yep.
You can look up my full name on Facebook. I'm sure you're going to put my name on the podcast. Okay. My last name's a little complicated. Sorry. So, and feel free to text me. My number's 602-554-8731. So that's for,
and you service clients valley-wide, right? So you're...
Yep. Wherever the wind takes me.
Got it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, listen, I appreciate you. I enjoyed the conversation, and all the best to you.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do another one next time around.
Appreciate it, Alan.
All right, bro.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for listening to our conversation. I hope you like it. Now, if you want to see more of the same type of content on your feed, here's what you got to do. Hit subscribe or hit like, and hopefully I'll see you again in the future.